Welcome, dear listeners, to Anastasia's podcast, a show that takes you on a cosmic journey for the realms of intuition, divination, and mental health. I'm your host, Anastasia, and I'm thrilled to be your guide on this exploration of the mystical and of the mind. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we have Iwa Ulman. She was here last year and she was talking about her spiritual experiences and spiritual awakening and how all of that changed her life and what was her story around it. And this time, Iwa came on very kindly to publicly do an astrology reading on a podcast. It's an idea that I had accidentally, actually, last time that when I did the podcast with Landon Smith, and we talked about his chart. We discussed his chart because he came in with questions from me, even though I wanted to record an interview with him. He wanted to know a little bit more about the eclipses and Mercury retrogrades, and we ended up doing his chart on the podcast. So I thought maybe we can do that. Maybe we can do it as a thing. Maybe we could do it more with other people, see how it goes. So there's a lot of thirst, there, firsts here. And one is, I was honestly, guys, I was really nervous doing an astrology reading publicly. And if I sound a bit off, if anything sounds inaccurate, if you know astrology, let me know. I'll probably listen to it. But I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I really want to do this again. And another first is this will probably be on video, probably most likely. I'm even recording the introduction on video. So it's going to go on YouTube, and I hope you really enjoy. I hope this is going to be fun for you to listen to and to see. I hope you learn a lot, maybe pick up something about astrology, your life in general, or the spiritual path and the spiritual learning experiences. Iwa came on to talk about her injury with her leg that happened last year that made her be a little bit, let me rephrase that. She had a leg injury and she had difficulty moving. So even going to the store was a little bit hard. So we talked about that and the transit surrounding that and what it meant and what she learned from it, as well as we touched on everything about her being a Gemini because she has a such strong Gemini sun. She has North Node and Mars and Mercury in Gemini. Apart from other, I think there are a couple of other asteroids there we didn't have a look at, but you guys can see for yourself. And yeah, let me know what you think. I hope you enjoy this one. And for now, that's it. Welcome back, everyone, to Anastasia's podcast, and welcome back, Iwa. We were actually just talking before we started recording. I think it was just the part of us catching up, and we haven't talked to one another for a while, but you were on the podcast, I think, last year, and we discussed spiritual awakening mostly and the experiences that you have with the spiritual realm. Now, there was something that I've been noticing recently in charts, and especially in your chart. So I'll just share the screen. You really kindly allow me on this podcast to go for your chart and actually do a full reading recorded on the podcast. It's very vulnerable, so I really appreciate that. We started a little bit before we started recording, and we'll just catch up the audience really quickly on what we were talking about, what we were discussing. The one thing, like I said, I've noticed, and we can go a little bit deeper into it, what it means for you, but is that you were born on in during the eclipse season, and we were talking about what the eclipse season actually means. And the last podcast I recorded that was in a similar style with my friend Landon Smith, he we were just discussing what eclipses mean. So if you guys want to hear about that, go back to that podcast. But just a short recap. So we had an eclipse season recently. It just closed up with the major eclipse in Americas. You could see it from Mexico, you could see it from America. And it opened with the lunar eclipse 2 weeks before. So usually eclipse seasons are about 2 weeks, and they happen twice a year, usually. So you were born within that space. The chances of that are actually quite interesting because it's only 2 weeks window
Hmm.
twice a year. So it's like a month window that anyone can be born around the eclipse time. You weren't born exactly on an eclipse, but you were born in the eclipse season. And by transit, which means that when the eclipses happen around us in the world for each human being, it means that eclipses bring changes usually. And they bring twists and plot twists to our life. They bring revelations where we are ready to make a move to a new place. Funny enough, we're talking about that, or a new place in our life, not necessarily a new location. But it does a lot have to do with major changes. And what's interesting is that sometimes when we are living our lives normally and something
Mhm.
happens, we don't even notice how intense the changes or how major the changes in our life until we'll go back and look back on that moment or look back on like eclipses 2 years ago and we realize, oh wow, that new thing that I started, that new job that I started was actually a major change. It took me into a completely new direction. Or that new place that I moved in, or that relationship that began or ended, that that brought me to a whole different place in my life. So I feel like somebody, and this is me speculating for now, but I feel like somebody born under the eclipses, not the eclipse exactly, but the eclipses, and it all has to do with constant transformation, constant changes, and constant shedding of skin, and living multiple lifetimes in one lifetime. Does that kind of resonate with you?
This is, I was gonna tell you from beginning, like even before we started to record, like when you told me that I was born on the eclipse season, this is my whole life. Like I can, it's been my whole life. Like I actually been thinking about it today, and I said, I was saying to myself, I literally could write book called every year. I could write book titled 1 year, because every year it's been so crazy for me. Like it's like one book for every of my year. It's so crazy. Like that every year for me looks so different than before. Like I don't have stability. Maybe looks like okay, I was living in the same place, but it's so different. Like every year I literally don't know what's gonna be in the next year. It's like the whole new book is gonna be another whole new book. It's like so
Yeah.
many changes every year, and like I'm experiencing every new book every year. So this is my whole life, yeah.
I
It's
feel
not
like that's
like it's been
amazing.
happening just now or whatever. It's been my whole life like this.
That's actually the metaphor or the analogy I like to use when it comes to eclipses. It's the end of a chapter in a book and the beginning of a new one. And it seems like that is just the theme of your life. I mean,
Yeah.
we can go back to writing. I'm sure that's an interesting idea to write the stories of your life because we talked a little bit on the podcast, but we talked in person quite a bit, especially years ago. And I know that you do have quite amazing stories that could be a movie or a novel that a lot of people, a lot of experiences, people don't even get to experience once in their life. And you seem to have a pack full of these stories that
Yeah.
just happened to you. And we'll get to that in a minute, but we were looking at the moment, would you like to go back to us discussing the injury
Oh,
that
yes,
you're
please.
about? So,
Ah,
say last
yeah.
year you got a really bad injury. And
Mm-hmm.
if this is your correct time, which I think it is, or around then, because it's really difficult for us, for me even, because I was born in Russia, you were born in Poland. They did not record time back then, but also you said your mom gave birth to you in a car, or did they actually get to the hospital? Or was it
No,
very
they got to the hospital, but it was like they were coming back from the trip, and they were coming back in the truck because my dad that time was driving a truck. I mean, he's a truck driver. And when they were on the way from a trip, or they were visiting some family in some other town, and on the way back, I start pushing to come out of the stomach of my mom's stomach. She said it was too early for me to come out yet, but she said I was pushing and pushing, so they had to find the closest hospital. So I wasn't even born in the town that I was living after. I was being born in the closest town because it was on the way. And my mom often she jokes like, you couldn't wait, you couldn't wait. Like I'm all my life I'm impatient and I like to get things fast, and also I'm Gemini, and this is like such a consistent characteristic of Gemini as well. We are impatient, we like to get things fast, and I was trying to get to this word fast, so obviously I couldn't wait as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of Gemini. And also you have a lot in Sagittarius too. And I think both of these axes of Sagittarius and Gemini is trying, but you're right. Gemini trait, one of them is strongly trying to rush or being a lot quicker to think than a lot of other people. Some people, and doesn't mean it's not a comment on someone's less intelligent or more intelligent, right? Because you can't really see intelligence in a chart. But Geminis do get ideas very quickly. It's like this the spark, and then they have a lot of different ideas probably at the same time, and they need to express all of them.
Yeah.
Whilst somebody maybe with the sun in Virgo or Mercury in Virgo likes to really think about what they have to say and likes to really dissect it and make sure what they're saying is accurate. Well, for Gemini, it's just more important to express rather than
Yeah.
worry about what's accurate. They'll think about why is it if it's accurate later, all right?
Mhm.
But that is also a very eclipse story all in all, like being born when earlier when you were supposed to, and then putting your parents in a situation where they had to find the nearest hospital in a random town where you weren't even from, and
Mhm.
probably not even with a doctor that your mom planned to give you birth with. So
Mhm.
that is just a hilarious representation of what we're discussing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, just to go back to your injury again. So last year you had a physical injury and you've been healing, and you say you've been learning a lot about, and we'll talk about that as well, but the
Mhm.
injury happened around April. If
Yes.
you'd like to look up the exact date, we can look up the exact date as well. But there are two things that I think are quite major that I'm seeing in a chart that represent that. And one is you're in Aquarius rising, and Pluto has ingressed, went into Aquarius for the first time last year, literally the month that you had your injury. And it's not to
Yeah.
scare anyone with Aquarius rising. I also have Aquarius rising, but it's it's not to say anything like that. But oftentimes Pluto can bring out challenges for us that help us understand ourselves on a more on a different deeper level, because what you were saying is you were asking the universe, like, whatever you take away from me, don't take away from me my ability to engage in exercise and fitness. And
Yeah.
that's what it's like, all right, let's take that away from you and see who you really are beneath that, and see how you deal with that, and see what you know what comes about of that, right?
Yeah, that was very interesting. I'm still coping with that. I'm healing, but like this week my knee is hurting me a lot. But it comes and go. It's definitely better than it was. The worst it was in September, in August. That's when it got so bad that for 4 days, I remember I was coming back from work and I felt like I can't make not one step more even. And the next day I was for 4 days in the bed. I couldn't literally move my leg. It was so horrendous. And yeah, after that, I went to doctor. So for a long time I didn't go to doctor. I was neglecting this injury and I thought it will recover by itself. I just was living in denial of the injury and I thought it's nothing. And I self-diagnosed that it was a ligament, and everyone was telling me, oh, it's gonna recover most 3 months. So that's why I wasn't going to doctor, because everyone was telling me, oh, it will recover by itself. But it was my mistake, and I should have got straight away to doctor, because then maybe I would save myself more time. But in a way, I'm glad this happened, because I was for 3 months, almost 4 months out of my work. Like I stopped working. I have 2 jobs, and one of the jobs I just stopped working. Anyway, I was working too much. So I know from spiritual view why all of this happened. And um, but when I was in the middle of the injury and I didn't know if I will recover at all, I didn't see any improvements until last month. No improvements. I was going every week to physiotherapist, and I was telling her nothing is working. Like I was really pissed, to be honest. I was nothing is working. Like your exercise don't work. I'm depressed. Um, at some point, I think I was crying every week, because the thought of not being able to skate again, I thought like, what the hell? This is really depressing. I can't skate. I found some exercises around, like when I was going to gym, I was just doing my top. So at least I was getting something, but I couldn't do any cardio. I couldn't do yoga as well. So I found I was doing just literally like 2, 3 poses that I could do. And I was teaching myself to like the stuff that left me of exercise, you know. I had to learn to like the things that left me from exercise that I could do, which was so limited. And I had to enjoy and just put all effort in those. So this is why this whole process was so much learning for me. And then I felt so connected with all disabled people, and I was thinking, bloody hell, now I am disabled. Now I know how it is to have problem to go to grocery and get a food, because I couldn't walk for more than 5 minutes. I was in so much pain. Like I had problem walking. Like that was so weird to me. And then I had this depressive thoughts. What if I never recover? How I'm gonna work? Like, how I'm gonna make money? Like, there is no even government help. You have to have all this, I would have to be sick for a long time to start getting any help and all these things. I start to think about this stuff, and I realize it's so difficult when these things happen to you. And especially like when I'm here without my family, so, and I don't have like a husband, so I literally had just my neighbors to help me out,
Mm.
so I didn't have no like close person to help me out, but luckily I had my neighbors, which I've been really close with. So yeah, it's been challenging on so many levels. Obviously now I'm getting better, so I'm seeing this uh, as a learning process, but in the midst of it, I was crying every week. I was just depressed about it, because I thought I will never be able to skate again or do my fitness,
That
and
sounds
it
really
was
tough.
very-
Mm.
yeah,
Oh, Pluto can be an amazing teacher. And like I said, it's not to scare everyone because depending on your life and your chart and what you're learning, these challenges occur. And for you, it seems like it really put a block on how much you could move and how far you could go distance-wise, physically. But
yeah,
also, I want to note that there was a Mars transiting your sixth house of health and routine and work as well. And Oftentimes, when Mars does transit the sixth house, we do get health challenges that help us
Mhm.
really go deep into what you're saying, go deep into our mind and understand ourselves a little better to really ask ourselves how much have we been working? What are we working for? What is the purpose of all of this? What do I actually want to do with my life? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing too much of that? But also, it's interesting. Another thing, the aspect of is the Aquarian aspect, and it's the humanitarian aspect. The worry for other people. Excuse me. I
Mhm.
have to cut that out. But the concern for other people, did you start thinking about the difficulties that other disabled people are going through? And did you have
Yeah,
any ideas about how you can help maybe the people that might be going through similar or maybe even worst case scenarios when it comes to disability?
no, I wasn't thinking how I can help, but I did connect with one guy from Facebook. So at some point I was so desperate. I honestly I was researching like, even stem cells therapy and everything just to try. I was trying to get better because my physio wasn't helping me at all. I mean, it was helping, but I couldn't see any results. So I tried to research like other things, and I'm at a group on Facebook, which is like Raw Vegan Heroes, and I wrote their question about my injury, and I wrote what injury is it? It's a degenerative meniscus tear. And one person connected with me, and we had a video chat, and he said he had the same injury, and it's been like 2, 3 years. He finally like almost fully recover. And so I made friends with him, and actually we're gonna have a chat again now this Saturday. He's spiritual, and like we have lots of things to talk about. And like he helped me a lot with to understand my injury, and yeah, so I feel like I made a valuable friend from it, but I did think about other people. That was the thing that first time I looked at disabled people because like we want to say, oh, we are compassionate, but actually when you're passing these people on the street, you don't think about them. You're just passing them, you might look at them, but you don't think nothing of it. You don't think actually what kind of challenges they have. But me being in this moment, for the first time in my life, I knew how they feel because I felt the same. Like I had difficulties with the basic things, to do. Um, so yeah, I had this, as you say, humanitarian, humanitarian characteristics when I felt like, wow, that's how lots of people feel and have this problem, when they have everyday challenges, like for a long time they've been in injury or they've been disabled, and no one even thinks twice about it. But at this moment, yeah, I had lots of these thoughts, and now I feel more connected with these people. Maybe not like in some physical way, but I understand them. And I feel like life lots of time gives me challenges. When I don't understand something, life will give me this an experience. Like even funny thing, when I was little, I was keep saying, because I always my life was like this crazy. I always was getting experiences for everything. So I was telling to myself, oh, I'm here to experience everything. As a child, I was saying these things. It's so weird why I would be saying stuff like this. And I was saying to my sister, oh, I come here to experience everything. I remember saying that. It was like my soul was speaking through me. And I wasn't even spiritual. Like I didn't know why I'm saying these things, but I remember saying this stuff. So
Well, as children, I feel like we're more connected to what is beyond the veil, I suppose. We're not
Yeah, definitely.
so integrated into our physicality yet, and we don't have these preconceived ideas and notions about what world is supposed to be. We're learning about the world, so we're a little bit more open. I like that you're saying that your injury opened you up to compassion. I mean, it's
Mhm,
still a horrible experience, and I'm sorry that happened to you, but I feel like that is something that you learn, especially in Buddhist practices and meditations. They call the mantra meditation, which is opening of the heart. Initially, you have to become compassionate towards yourself. And when
mhm,
you get an injury, when you get an illness, you learn to, after you've been angry at universe,
mhm,
God, whatever, that happened, and that passes, you have to learn to nurture yourself. And to nurture yourself, you need to be compassionate towards yourself. And then you become compassionate towards other people that are going through a similar experience.
mm,
So you always start with yourself, and then you go, you reach out and go to others. But just to go back to what you're saying about experiencing everything, and it is definitely something that I do see in your chart with the Pag Gemini and the Pag Sagittarius. Both of these um, axis of the knowledge and information. So one Gemini absorbs information, wants to learn everything around it, wants to experience everything as well. But so does Sagittarius, and they do it through a little bit of a different filter. One wants to experience the knowledge and what else is there to learn, and there's a quick sorting out of all these experiences, right? But with Sagittarius, there is a need for adventure and philosophy and different ways of thinking, different ideas.
mhm.
So
I
there,
actually don't know any Sagittarians.
oh,
I
you
know
do know one.
nothing about Sagittarians. I know about
One
Gemini.
for sure. I was born as a Sagittarius with a
Ah,
Gemini, so I have those
yeah.
axes. Well, I understand
Uh-huh.
that, but probably not into to a degree that you experience it, being the sun in Gemini and the North Node and Mars in there too. So there's this deep hunger for knowledge. And when you say, like, as soon as you get an injury, your go-to is to do research. And research and learning is actually fun for you. It's something that you do
Oh,
for,
yes.
I would
It's
imagine.
the most fun thing for me.
Oh, really?
It's my favorite. I do research about everything. I love it.
I love that. I love that because for a lot of people, research is, they hear that sounds very academic or boring, or a lot of people like to get crafty with their hands or paint or write music or play or do activities. But for you, I would imagine even with Mars there, before you do any fitness or exercise or get into any sport, you like to learn about it first and then get into it, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, also I like to do things, but I do research as well. But sometimes being the Gemini, I just do things as well. Imagine, so the funny thing is this year I will be attending um, on the rollerblades. It's like a kind of marathon in June, which is after my birthday. So after this injury, I will be attending 24 hours marathon on skates. We going as 6 people in team, and it's going to be in France. And so like one person drives on skates for 3 hours, and then we change, and the skate for 24 hours can't stop. As a team, we can't fold the skate. Someone has to be skating. So for 24 hours, we have to finish this. So we're going as a team of 6 people, and I'm going after my injury. So it's funny. Like last year, I couldn't skate anymore, and now my friend was like, "Oh, come, come." She's been telling me this since last year. I'm like, "No, because I just had the injury. I can't skate." But she's been bugging me about it, and I finally said, "Okay, let's go." So we are now preparing, and I'm gonna be going to do this. I don't know how I will survive, but
Oh my
here I
goodness, well,
go.
good luck. Do you have any tools of or have you how you preparing your body for it in any
Yeah,
way?
yeah, I'm already like training, so my knee is getting better. I need to do lots of exercises. I'm doing a lot now rehabilitation exercises, and I can skate now up to even 1 hour, 2 hours on skates, but I have to be training for it, so yeah, to stay longer. I think by June I will be able to do this, and the thing is I can like do jumps and I can't drive too fast, but my knee is so much better than last month. And this month I was on a street skate, which was like almost 2 hours, and I did it, and my knee wasn't even hurting or wasn't swollen next day, so. Yeah, I think I can do that. By June, it's gonna be much better.
That's amazing. Oh, good luck. That sounds exciting for you. Like something you're
I
gonna do either way. Whatever
so funny.
happens.
Yeah, we're buying now outfits because we have to have the same suit, you know, to be a team. We have to have the same suit. I just want everyone, listen, guys, but if in the middle suddenly my knee is swollen and I just can't do, like someone has to drive for me, you know, because we can't stop the skate. It has to keep going. So I prepare everyone just in case if something goes wrong with my knee, then they have to finish for me. So so
Yeah.
everyone knows, and they were fine with it. So yeah.
That's amazing. I think that's interesting because the one thing I've been thinking about Gemini recently is how they have a big FOMO if their
Yeah.
friends are doing something and they're not
Oh
doing
my
it.
God. Yeah.
So I feel like it's very Gemini, like the strong
Oh,
fear of missing out.
brings me anger sometimes. So when I had the injury, I tell you something. Yeah, when I had the injury, I mean, I still have it, but it's so much better. And like I saw everyone posting because I'm in this group for skating, and like I have Instagram just for skating, and I see all my skating friends like learning new tricks, posting the skating, and I'm like, honestly, I was saying, I'm like, I hate you, all of you. You know, I'm saying in the joking way, but it's so dramatic. Like Geminis are so dramatic. I was very dramatic to myself, like, why this happened to me? Everyone around skating, like they have some injury, like a broken wrist, and then 3 weeks they fine again. But me, I had to have the one that I need to struggle for 1 year. So I was kind of angry. I was getting triggered. Every time I saw someone else video, like, oh, I'm learning new trick, I'm doing this, and I can't do nothing. I'm like, why? So yeah, there was lots of challenges in that area. Triggers.
Yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine without being able to engage with whatever everyone else is doing, and everyone else seems to be having fun, and you have to be stuck at
Oh
home.
yes.
But you're
Yes.
saying you know, you do understand the things that you've learned so far, right? With
Yeah, yeah,
this
definitely.
experience. And possibly I feel like it's kind of like some life experiences are like looking back at dreams or even meditate long meditations that we have or even plant medicine experiences where it feels like post that experience you kind of understand why you went through it. But then
Mhm.
a year after or 5 years after, in retrospect, that's when it really hits you where your life
Mhm.
has taken you and you think, wow, if I haven't had experienced that challenge, I wouldn't be here right now. So
Yeah,
sometimes it's a longer wait for for an epiphany to come, for an understanding for whatever it is going on.
you know why? Because this is the same like doing a puzzle. When you start doing a puzzle, you just have the edge, let's say you make the edge, but basically what you're doing, you just pick the same Like I'm puzzle obsessed. So when I start the puzzle, I first put all the colors together or similar patterns. So I'm looking for patterns that will be similar. And then I go through the whole bag. I pick up the patterns that they look similar. I put them in separate bag and I do for lots of like patterns and colors like this. So that's what, like when we come to this world, that's what we're doing in the beginning, we're just looking for pattern, we just looking for experiences, and we put them in like separate things. But after, when you get older, and as you say, like the more puzzle you put on the board, and they start to make sense, and then when you go up and you look at the whole thing, and slowly and slowly it start to make a picture. But in the beginning it doesn't make any picture, it doesn't make any sense. So is like with our life, the older we get, the wiser we get, and the more we getting outside of the puzzle, so you can see the whole picture. And this is the same like how time is linear and how we are multi-dimensional beings. So this is why we think we are linear, and for us, because when we are in the experience, we are like just on the one side of the pyramid wall. Yeah, we can't see it. But when you go more with the experience, you can like stand on top of the pyramid, and then you see all the walls. Yeah, you see all the facets. Because linear time, you stand just on one side of the wall, so you see just one side of things. But multidimensional is like being God. You see all the walls of the pyramid from every side, because you look from the top. So the time is like now, present, and past and future. It's all together because you see it just from top. You see it all happening at the same time. But when you put in the experience, you just experiencing that moment, which can feel like bad because you don't see the whole puzzle.
That was a very Gemini way of explaining things. I get that. Yeah, variety of experiences gives us a perspective on life that we
Yeah.
wouldn't get if we were very narrow focused. Like
Yeah.
Capricorn, they're narrow focused, and it's good in many different aspects of life. If you want to achieve a certain goal, and you're going towards that goal, and all you see is tunnel vision, that's absolutely fine. But then if you're talking about you, like yourself, wanting to understand life from many different angles and many different experiences, it's an expansion of a soul process, I would say, where
Mhm.
these different experiences that you are engaging in, the different interests, the different skills that you're learning, this almost restless quality, right, in life gives you shapes a perspective that most people don't either want to have or don't get to have. You can think about it many different ways, but I feel like that gives you a different clarity that a lot of people don't get to appreciate.
Mhm. It's a
So
research. It's a research. It's a soul research.
it's a
I'm doing a research as a soul.
exactly, it's a
The
soul research
experience
on life
research.
and what it actually
Collect
means.
data.
Collecting data for sure.
I do feel like, I come as a soul to collect the data. So that's why I'm having like lots of experiences.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if have you ever seen your natal chart?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, okay.
I don't.
So this is your birth chart, right?
Yeah.
Like getting into it. Um, and 40 minutes later, you were born, so everyone's born a specific time
Mhm.
on a specific day. And this is the birth chart that you were cosmically, let's say, cosmically given with the different planet positions, alignments. So, for instance, all we know normally about astrology, if we're not studying is I was born as a Gemini, I was born as a Capricorn. because you're born at a
Uh-huh.
certain month. But what that means is that you were born in the season of Gemini, meaning the sun was in Gemini. And then there were
Uh-huh.
other planets in different signs at the same time, and they're all interacting with each other, creating this story, this wheel. I was talking to Landon Smith last time, explaining this as a samsara wheel, a wheel of destiny, kind of, so to speak, right? It's not to
Uh-huh.
say that all of our destiny is predetermined. It's something that I've been
Yeah.
thinking about a lot lately. It's to say that some of the things I was reading a book, and I can't remember. I see Sue Tompkins it was. She's an astrologer. I
Uh-huh.
believe she does modern astrology. And her way of explaining it is to say, imagine all of us are born with a map, and you are
Uh-huh.
born with a map of London, for instance, and I was born with a map of Auckland. And the fact that we're born with different maps means that we have different accesses to different. So I can go to certain places, and I can take certain turns around the road. And it
Uh-huh.
doesn't mean that I don't have a choice. I can still have a choice in where I go and how I live out my destiny. But
Uh-huh.
there's a blueprint that
Uh-huh.
you're given to allow you to experience different things. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, I definitely get what you mean. Yeah.
So if you look down here where it says number 5, this is your sun, the thing that looks like a boob and a nipple. That's actually the sun. And I find that funny too, because it's the sun is all about vitality and life giving, right?
Never even thought about it. I can
I know.
sometimes, like I have
You're
sexual joy,
welcome.
but I never thought about it. Now I will never take out that image off my head.
Now you'll forever know. Oh, that's the sun, the one that looks like the boob.
So I love it. The nipple is the sun.
The nipple is the sun. It gives you life, energy,
Oh, this is
vitality.
a metaphor that actually might be true. The nipple is the sun.
Nipple is the
Nipple.
sun. It's a given. You're welcome. But anyway, you've got all these other things here that are packed into Gemini as well. This is why a lot of people, for instance, if you're born with just your sun in Gemini, but then you have all the other planets in different signs, you're reading astrology, you're not really relating to it as much. That's
Mhm,
because a lot of your other qualities, like the way that you think, might be in Cancer or in Taurus, right?
mhm,
Or the way that you relate to people, which is Venus, might be in a different sign too, which it is for you. But then you have Mars and North Node there, and they're really closely conjunct. And I find that whenever the North Node is closely conjunct to the Sun, it enhances it. It enhances the qualities of that sun. So whatever gives you energy, vitality, whatever actually rejuvenates you is inherently Gemini, like all that you're saying, data collection, research, even your language is Gemini. But then you look at Mercury there and it's there as well. So that's why you do relate to Gemini in such a big way. Most of your personal planets are there. And
mhm,
personal planets are the ones that are closer to the sun.
mhm,
But then you have Venus in Leo, for instance, and in the seventh house of relationships too. So the way you relate to people is a little different. And the way that you like to relate to people, the way that you like for people to relate to you is a little bit different than just Gemini and just data collection and just exchange of information. It really is something that's purely comes from the heart. And it might not be, and excuse me if I'm saying that, correct me if I'm wrong, but perhaps you don't even like to speak about that because it is so vastly different from the natural way that you are day to day and with your friends when it is in the relationships. That is something that it's a little bit more private for you, I would say. This, wearing your heart on your sleeve and falling in love from, in the first sight and really believing in the fairy tale story. So yeah, does any of
mhm.
that make sense and relate to you?
Yeah, that makes sense. You can tell me more about like how do I relate to people? That's interesting.
Do you want to
Yeah,
hear more about your Venus? Is that what you
yeah. I didn't even know that what you're saying now. I didn't even know that. You see, because I just know basic of astrology. Like I heard about this houses and but I didn't never really understood what all of these things mean. So
Mm.
yeah, it's really interesting what I was saying. You can say whatever you want. I am open. So and I want to hear all of this. So you can.
Sure. We can talk about
I-
Venus a little bit. I did want to talk a little bit about your moving situation too, just out of curiosity and to see maybe I can help you and give you a little bit of advice on that
okay.
subject too. We didn't talk about this on the recording, but we talked about it off the recording. If you'd like to, you can ask me later. But with Venus, it's also what kind of people we're attracted to. And the fact that your Venus is in seventh house, which is what Venus rules, and it's in Leo to me
Yeah.
that you are usually attracted to people that are bigger than life, people that they walk in the room and everyone notices them. Someone very
Mm.
charming, very charismatic. There's a there's a connection or there's a need to connect or be awakened by their creativities. While you're a very creative person yourself, being that your sun and all those planets are in the fifth house, and you are attracted to other creative people.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even sometimes you like to be attracted to people who do something creative that you haven't even thought about before or you haven't really done yet, which is a very
Mm-hmm.
Gemini quality, right? Trying to experience something as well through another
That's true.
person.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, so with Leos, it's often actually that's a good question. Do you find that you date Leos or people with a sun sign in a fire sign like Aries, Leo, Sagittarius?
Yes, I definitely um I have a few best friends that are Aries, the women, but I did date few Aries as well and Leo as well. Yeah, I was attracted. Yeah, I am attracted to signs that is fire, but I also feel like lots of time like this never lasted long. The only friendship that lasted long with fire signs were actually just friendships, like with girls. I'm still friends with them and we have very close connection. They are this kind of friendship that even if we meet after 10 years, it feels like we just met yesterday, you know. I have this kind of connection with them, but with the men, no, it quickly came, but it quickly burned out
Like a
because their
fire.
fire is too much for me. It's actually too much. I find them to be too arrogant, and
Yeah.
that I really can't stand arrogance, you know?
Mhm. I totally get that.
Yeah, okay.
So the with the spark energy that you're describing, it is a very fire, especially when it comes to Aries, not just Leos. I feel
Mhm,
like with the fire, it does spark up really quickly and intensely, and then it can die out as well.
mhm.
Leos, the fire energy of it in itself is usually a little bit more fixed. So they do like their fire usually lasts for a little bit longer, but then you're talking about the
Yes,
arrogance
I
part.
found the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then let's see if it's making any transits that I can notice.
So what is the north node? What that means?
This one. So
Yeah.
So when we talk about the eclipses,
Mhm,
right? Remember how in the beginning, before we started recording, I was describing that the ecliptic of the sun and the path of the moon
mhm,
intersect each other? And
mhm,
these two points where they intersect each other, so imagine like kind of like two, they're not really circles, like more ovals, right?
mhm,
And the path when they intersect are the darkest points of that path. So these are actually called the north node and the south node.
mhm,
And
mhm,
whenever you see the sun or the moon
mhm.
close to the north node or the south node, especially if, so let's say the sun is here, right, next to the north node, it means that we're close, let me just rephrase it. Whenever you see the sun close to the north node or the south node, it means that we're in the eclipse or close to the eclipse season
Mhm.
because those
Okay, it
points,
makes sense.
yeah, so
Mhm.
they're called eclipses
Mhm.
in the sky and astronomy. In the chart, they're called north node and south node. In Jyotisha or Indian astrology, they're called Ketu and Rahu. And in
Mhm.
Indian astrology, there is a myth that's related to the dragon and the dragon head. I'm not going to get into the myth. I'll tell you maybe a little bit later.
Okay.
I'll send you some information because I've recapped this myth quite a lot on the podcast. So anyone wants to listen back, I'm pretty sure I did it in the last podcast too. But the idea is that the dragon in he drank the amrita, which is the nectar of life, of eternal life, and he wasn't supposed to. Only the, so to speak, the good gods were supposed to drink that nectar, and the demons, as they called them, or the negative gods, were banned from the nectar, and he sneaked in and he drank some. And the moment he had a drop, his head got chopped off from his body. So
Mhm.
now he's eternal and he's dismin he's got his head separate from his tail. And
Mhm.
because it was the sun,
Mhm.
the sun, can't remember exactly. But he's really mad at the sun and the moon basically. And he's chasing them around forever
Mhm.
for eternity and he's chasing his head and his tail forever. So the north node is the head of the dragon and the south
Mhm.
node is the tail of the dragon. And the head
Mhm.
of the dragon in Indian astrology often relates to the worldly things, the things that the things that separate us from our body, but
Mhm.
connect us to the bigger, larger world, like the screens, computer screens, money, technology, all those things. And then the body part disconnects us from our heads, but connects us back to things like nirvana or the state of constant meditation. And the
Mhm.
reminder here is to keep those two balanced because you can't have constant meditation be in complete state of nirvana unless you're, a
Mhm.
yogic and you go
Agree.
into the middle of nowhere and you sit and meditate forever. But then you can be constantly obsessed with the outer world as well, the world of business and the world of screens and the world of media and information. You have to
Mhm.
balance it with your remembering to listen to your body and to be spiritual. So, even with your injury, it reminds me of that notion of listening to your body.
Mhm.
Of, you say that I love the persistence of your and your strength and your personality. I think that's really beautiful. The fact that they told you not to work out, but you still figured out some yogic poses that you could do,
Yes.
and like, I'm going to do research. I'm going to do something because I can be not active.
No, in that moment, there was no research. What I had to do, I tell you, I had to be so in tune with my body that I had to feel when it's hurting and when I had to find these points around. So let's say I did just like literally stretching, and I had to do it to the point that I feel it when it's hurting me so much that I can't do it. I had to find like the point, like a threshold where I couldn't pass it more, because I would re-injure myself. So I had to be so in tune with my body. I feel like this actually teach me not to do the research, but actually to figure out by being with my body, and just focus. I think it was purposely given to me because I got to the point that there is so many option of, yoga poses and this, and I was rushing through them because I want to accomplish all of them. But now, thanks to this injury, now my yoga routine is so basic and simple, and I'm actually thriving on it. I'm loving so much, and every pose I just do more time and more in tune with every fiber of my body when I do it, you know? So it teaches me to be more focused on just one thing. You know how Gemini's mind is like, I want everything at once now. But this teach me like to focus just on one thing, you know, like I don't need it. This injury, it helped me because now I don't do million exercises. I just go, I spend less time in the gym, but I 100% focus on just 2 or 3 exercises. That's it. I decided, and it's so much easier, and I have less headache, and I enjoy it more. So I see so many benefits of this injury that I already see, like, oh, I'm grateful for it. But when I was in it, no, it didn't feel like that.
Yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying when it comes to, I want to say the scattered mind of a Gemini, and I don't mean that negatively. I actually do mean that positively. I think there's so much benefit to being interested in many things at once and having that wanting variety, having that versatility. But then again, would you say that the injury helped you be more connected to the present moment?
Yes, 1,000,000%. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what.
absolutely.
To choose one thing, like forced me, no, you can't have 50 poses, just choose one. You can't have all the exercises, focus on one, like Iwona, focus. It was almost like universe telling me, Iwona, focus. You are too much scattered. Just focus on one and stick to it, you know. And I'm like, okay, I listen.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
seems like you really have listened, which is not a lot to say for your connection to yourself and your body. And I would say not many would have gone that way. Would have just listened to what it is that the universe is trying to tell them. But then again, coming
Yeah.
back to the North Node, right? Like I said, I
Mhm.
feel like it does amplify the needs of the sun, but then you have Mars there as well. And Mars is inertia. It is what we when we put our personality into action. And
Mhm.
I feel like whenever Mars is really close to the sun, it does create a person who does like to be very active, who does like exercise and fitness and needs to sort of sweat out their problems as well, right?
Oh,
So
that's definitely me. Yeah.
yeah, I know exactly. It's interesting that, and it's in the fifth house too. So I would say that just like research, exercising and doing activities and sports in general is something that you do find really fun and do find really
Mm.
joyful for yourself. And it does inspire you and rejuvenate you, build up your creativity. Would you even say that if you feel creatively blocked, you'd exercise and then clear your mind and then an idea comes through for you?
Yeah, and I found that often. I I feel like since I was a child, I was very active, always running and skipping rope and doing gymnastics and like doing lots of things. And I always felt that I do have, like, I feel better after, like, I often felt that when I did really like a hardcore exercise, then after I had clarity of mind. It definitely, it has also something to do with like in this 3D world with manifesting, and because you're taking out the toxins from your brain, you know. So if you do rigoristic exercise, you actually pull out the toxins and some maybe heavy metals as well from your brain, and that brings clarity as well. So it's like a physical manifestation, you can say, of the planetary alignment. But that's how in our body also happens when you do like strong exercises and you really sweat it out, you take out the toxin and that brings clarity to your brain.
Like lifting iron releases the iron out of your body. Funny.
Also, they even did study, I read this book on the people who were doing like sprinting, you know, and they were measuring them. Like I read the whole book about it, and the people who were sprinting like every morning, just sprint for like 50 minutes or something, they were they start to get better ideas. The brain was so sharp and clear, and they were more focused at work. Like it's literally scientifically proven now that that's how chemistry of your body works.
Yeah, I believe that. I do. I do like to exercise as well. I feel like the days that I don't, just I don't feel very clear-headed for
Mm.
sure. It's a different kind of meditation. I feel like sitting down to meditate with your eyes closed is a
Yeah,
completely different activity and it's very important as well.
yeah,
But sweating it out is
yeah. It
crucial
is
for
definitely a
focus.
meditation. I also find exercise help me with transmuting. When I had few heartbreaks, or like really my heart was aching from some trauma, something. When I went and transmute this in the gym, I put this, like, I was angry, let's say, and I feel like I'm angry. I don't know what to do with it, and then I purposely and I go, no, you accept purposely. It's actually went to my benefit, so I turn it into my benefit. Oh, I'm angry, let's turn it into good workout.
Yeah,
It's not always like this, but few times it happened to me that I turn into workout and I did like things that I thought it's impossible to me.
the alchemy of it, the
Yeah,
transmutation.
exactly, the
Energy
alchemy.
cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. But anyway, I just wanted to quickly have a look, and I feel like it relates to what we're talking about here with Pluto, because your Pluto is in the ninth house of your beliefs,
Hmm.
religion, higher learning. So Pluto is a big teacher for you in general,
Hmm.
especially being conjunct here with Saturn. And Pluto is a great purifier of our old beliefs, our old ways of thinking, our old ways of being, and any of old trauma that we no longer need. I feel like wherever we have Pluto in a chart for a long time, we feel powerless.
Hmm.
And after a while, when you start to grow up and grow older and learn about yourself and heal and become whole and integrate all different parts of you, you begin to actually draw power from where you used to feel powerless.
Mm.
And the powerlessness here seems to be around higher learning, around education, around religion and spirituality.
Mhm.
Maybe growing up you were told what was left and right, what was wrong and what was right, and then you had to break out of that and learn on your own. No, I actually don't believe in this anymore. What I believe is this, and this is my way of thinking, and this is my way of learning.
Yeah,
And
that's exactly how it was.
right. And then that tool later on actually helped you with that injury because transmuting your pain or transmuting your even your injury, that this was a transmutation into something that was useful, even though it was frustrating, seemed to have had huge benefit in your life. And like we're saying, we don't even know what kind of benefit it will be later on in life. But
Hmm.
what's interesting is that this is opposing your third house. So the ninth house is also the house of travel, but travel overseas or travel to new lands, travel somewhere far away. And the third house opposing it is travel nearby. It's our neighborhoods, it's our city, or maybe it's a city nearby.
Hmm.
What we're talking about before we start recording, if you don't mind, do you mind talking about that on the podcast?
Oh.
Okay. Okay. The apartment.
Hmm.
So the apartment you've recently moved in seems to have a lot of issues and problems, and you don't like being there anymore. So you're now starting to think that even though you've signed a lease for a year, you're going to be moving out and looking
Hmm.
for a new place.
Yeah.
Now, all of this is happening in your third house with the eclipse being there, Mercury retrograde being there, Mercury coming in and asking you, is this really the place you want to be? What kind of
Oh.
place have you manifested for yourself?
Hmm.
And where would you like to go now? And again, it's opposing the ninth house of distance, of travel. So now I want to ask you, have you
Mhm.
been thinking of staying in London or have you been thinking of going other places as well?
I've been thinking of going, but I don't know. That's when I am confused because to be honest, when the eviction happened, I was even thinking just to go to Bali for like 1 year, and live there for 1 year.
Yeah.
So
And just a clarity for those listening in New Zealand and America, in England, apparently, eviction can happen without reason. I don't know about American law. Maybe it's the same there, but I know in New Zealand, you can't just evict somebody for no reason. And what happened is that your landlord decided to sell the apartment because became too expensive to have it. And they just told you, hey, you got to move out in 2 months,
yeah, exactly.
leave the place now, and find a new one.
Yeah.
But this whole situation here, especially with your leg injury, being in Pluto and Pluto ruling your ninth house of travel, like you were saying, you couldn't travel too far. You couldn't even go to the supermarket because
Yeah.
your leg was in so much pain. You had to ask other people for help. And now that you're healing and that you're feeling better, and the new apartment that you found doesn't seem to be up to standard, not even
Mhm.
up to standard, but it seriously feels like you were saying, a scam at the moment. So the
Scam that I purposely was put it here so I will resolve for other tenants.
exactly. So the idea here, how long have you been in London for now? Did you say 15 years?
In London, I'm 18 years now.
18 years. It's
Yeah.
interesting. So is it around 2008? Let's go back in history.
I came to London 2000. Wait, when did I came? 2005, I think. So no, it's been like 19 years or 20 maybe even.
We should we
I
should
was
look at
24. So I think I'm here like almost 20 years because I came sometime in April in 2004, but then I went back and then I came back again, but I can't remember when the date was exactly. But yeah, I'm here almost 20 years, I think. I just realized this now.
That's amazing because we are talking about Pluto transits as well. And Pluto was in Sagittarius when you did move, but it was about to make that move into Capricorn. And I want to ask you, when you first moved to London, did it feel very isolated and lonely? Did you have to
Uh,
hermit?
yes, but it felt like this because I was in abusive relationship where the guy isolate me completely from my family and everything. So
Wow, amazing. So this seems like a Pluto transit story.
yeah.
When Pluto moves into our 12th house, for whatever reason, whether it is a relationship or it's our own personal choice, or we have to go somewhere that is isolated, 12th house rules that feeling of being a hermit, of
Hmm.
isolation, of separation from other people. And it helps
Hmm.
us to learn a little bit more about our unconscious and ourselves for doing that, whether it's isolation by force or isolation by choice,
Hmm.
regardless.
So
So
that would be for in my chart, or is it still somewhere there, that
that's
Pluto?
in your chart. That is absolutely in your transit. So Pluto, so in the whole wide world, right? Okay, I'll explain this, break this down. It takes
So my whole life this gonna be going on or what? I don't understand.
moving different places or
Oh,
isolation.
like isolation and stuff.
No, not at all, actually. I feel like that stage of your life has been complete and that chapter has been written. That I could
Mhm.
be wrong and I could be incorrect, but you let me know this is your life. But I feel like this is a new chapter in your life actually. And with Pluto, so what happens is because Pluto moves so slowly, right? It's the furthest planet away from the sun that we know of.
Mhm.
Not even a planet now, astronomically speaking, but we still call it a planet, celestial body, whatever. And
Yeah.
it moves about 10 to 20 years through a sign. And the
Wow.
moment when it started to move through Capricorn
Mhm.
was the time when you first moved to London. And
Yeah.
from then on, that was an isolation period. There was actually the deep research into your subconscious relating back to the your natal Pluto in your ninth house and studying beliefs and spirituality and religion and all of that.
Mhm.
And now as it moves into your first house, there's this need, like you're saying, you have a group of friends that you're going away with and skating. There's this need to reconnect with the community, reconnect with people. But
Mhm.
I'm also curious to see, because you are even saying yourself that you might not want to stay where you're at and anymore, like where you're living. You might want to go, maybe move into a different country, move somewhere else.
Mhm.
So I'm curious to see if that new chapter of Pluto will be because of a new location that you choose.
Mm.
Because you're
I feel
the
like
reason
I
why,
was, yeah.
oh, sorry. I'm just saying the reason why your Pluto specifically is connected to that because it's in
Uh-huh.
your ninth house of travel. So Pluto, they are long transits of like 10, 18, 20 years, but for you, they seem to relate to traveling and moving places and going to a new land.
Okay,
Maybe.
I can
But
tell you that how it's connected. Um, because when I moved here, so listen to this. So I think this has connection. When I moved here, I was with that boyfriend and I was with him for 9 years, almost 10. And then I was living by myself for another 9 years. And then I moved. And I recently figured this out. Oh, it looks like I have majorly moving places, changes every 9 years or something, you know? So it's interesting what you're saying because I see a connection there.
I do see another connection. It might be a bit of a stretch, but I'll try it. So Pluto rules Libra. Libra rules Venus. It's funny that you're talking about being in relationships as well and being out of relationships for 9 years. A Venus cycle is 8 years, actually, not 9 years. It's 8 years.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
because Venus rules your ninth house, it might also be related to moving different locations. But when it
Mhm.
comes to Pluto, I feel like it also relates to actually even moving countries, moving completely to a new place. So where have
Mhm.
you been thinking of relocating?
I don't know if I'm gonna do it because basically the main reason is that life in London it became so difficult now with the prices and everything. It's like you start to think, is it even worth it to being here? But then also, I don't know where to move because I don't want to go back to Poland because it's cold there. I don't like it. I don't like how people think there. It's still everything like in the box, you know. And I don't feel comfortable there. Yeah, to go for to see my family and for a little bit it's okay, but to stay there, I don't feel comfortable there. I feel like I've been if I go there, I'm like pulled by the crabs, you know, that they don't let me grow. That's how it feels there. And I don't know which other location, but I'm thinking to be honest, I would love to go to America, but I'm not sure. I'm thinking maybe it's just my mind wants to go new place. Like I'm thinking, oh, the life's gonna be better there. But I figured it out recently that the truth is, wherever I go, I will still have the same, you can say, issue or things that I want. This won't resolve what I really crave, you know, with my soul, which is what you were saying, like connection. I want to, this is time in my life that I realized that the currency of life is true connection. And up to this point, like I knew that, but it wasn't, I was most of it like a hermit. And I mean, I'm still that, but I start to make a family from people around me. I realized that I'm now even talking even like to strangers. I just every day I feel like it's my opportunity to make connection with anyone. It doesn't matter where I am. So yeah, I was thinking of changing the places, but then I realized wherever I go, it's all up to me how I'm gonna make this life. So sometimes I think, yes, I want to change the place because the truth is I want to run away and you think, oh, I'm gonna change the place, everything's gonna be better. But you truly sometimes you just running away from your things that you're supposed to face off as a soul, but you don't want to, and you think, oh, I'm going to change the place and everything will fall into the place. But it's not like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I
You
see
can't run
that
away
clearly.
from yourself. Yeah. You can't run from yourself. Wherever you go, you always take yourself with
Yeah.
you, right?
So I realize is, yeah, if I believe that if I have to move and live somewhere else, like everything will align as usual, and I will get a clue because I feel like universe speaking to me. I'm so good at reading the signs. So I know if I have to go somewhere, I will read the signs and I will go there. And but I'm getting this message. Like I still love the skating and I have amazing skating community. So for now, I'm happy here. Although I'm not happy 100%, with the flat and all the stuff. But also I'm not I'm not so complaining like I used to be about these things. I know all this I'm taking as an experience. It's sometimes even funny to me, Like at some point, like I had so much stuff thrown on my head, I start to laugh. I'm like, this is hilarious. This is like some kind of comedy, drama, like a black comedy. It was just hilarious. And then I'm thinking to myself, one day I'm just gonna laugh at it. It's funny.
Yeah, maybe one day you'll write that book you were talking about.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm just not good of a writer. If I would be a good, like, I can't write in Polish anymore because my Polish become so broken. For half of my life I live here, but then my English is not that good as well. So I'm just like in the middle. I would need someone to write stuff for me, you know,
Yeah,
because I'm not
ghostwriter.
good at, I'm not good at writing. I
No,
have stories, but I'm not good at writing.
that's amazing. Well, best of luck for all of that. Eva, I really hope that the universe shows you the messages and everything aligns. And I hope this has been really helpful to you. And if it has, let me know. If it hasn't, also let me know. Would love to hear back. But yeah, it's an incredible, interesting life that you're living, and it's fascinating. There's a lot of things that, we talked about, I see in the chart, and I can't wait to hear back what you say about where you're moving and what's going on.
Yeah, let's see.
Thank you
I
so
think
much.
it would be amazing maybe to do second parts and then talk about other aspects that we haven't talked,
Yeah.
on the chart.
Yeah, I would
Because
love to.
it's,
I would
it's such an
absolutely
amazing
love to.
learning experience, but I feel like we just touched the tip of the iceberg, with the chart.
For sure. We did, but we'll get into it later, and I'll let you listen to it, and you let me know if maybe you picked up on something you haven't picked up before. But
No, it
for
was
now, Eva,
all
we've been
good.
talking for over an hour now, so we'll have to wrap it up.
Okay,
And
no
I'm so
problem.
grateful for you opening up like this on the podcast.
Oh, always.
Yeah, and we'll share all your information down below as always. But for now, that's all she wrote.